Anyway, I'm Jeff. I'm an ACPE certified educator, and I actually work here at MTSO. And so you have a CPE program at MTSO. This was no small feat. This seminary was picked out of all the seminaries to get CIPP. I also work for Ohio Health, and basically my job is to oversee the CPE that happens throughout the system at the 20-some hospitals, and then whatever CPE we're going to put together here through a team of educators that are around the country. We have 20 ACPE certified educators working with CIPP, including a quarter of the Certification Commission of ACPE and the next chair of the board of ACPE. CIPP is making some waves in chaplaincy, and it's based here. Now, it's going to be an asset to the seminary. It's going to be an asset to you all in years to come. The kind of work that CIPP will do, it'll help students find placements in hospitals. It'll help students find placements in care facilities, in nursing homes, with hospice services, in churches. It will provide opportunities for you all and for anyone around the country to be able to do CPE. We're also going to do work outside the country. We're going to follow our Methodist footprint and go into countries that seem able to do CPE and try to build programs abroad. Any of this, I would be happy to talk to you more about. I'm here on Thursdays, got an office over in the library. I would love to sit down with any of you to talk to you about this. All right, but let's get into preaching a little bit. All right. So CPE does stuff to you. It does stuff to you. And what it does is it kind of connects you to yourself. Because we tie ourselves into pretzels and we cut off parts of ourselves and we bury other things. And CPE will make you more who you are. You'll have, inside, you'll think, okay, this is what's good about me, and that other stuff, we won't talk about that. And it's going to be that other stuff that is the key to helping somebody else. The readings today came out of the lectionary, but basically CPE does stuff to me. And so so when I was reading these readings and I was thinking about being here with y'all today, I was like, well, who do I identify with in all these readings? Yeah, I identify with all the people in these readings. If you think about, the Pharisee, yeah, I'm the Pharisee sometimes. If you think about the tax collector, the one telling the story, yeah, I'm like all of these. When I reflect, as I've learned to do through CPE, it gets to be less, I'm like this and they're like that, and more, we are like this, we are like that. So, you got the Pharisee who's super smart, knows his stuff, tries to live a good life, and is really grateful he's not like those other people. If you do CPE, you will be the Pharisee. Because people do things. They think weird stuff. They have beliefs that just don't match ours. And you might feel like that Pharisee. You're like, oh gosh, I'm really glad I'm not like them. But then there's tax collector. And the tax collector who's basically like, oh goodness, woe is me. Please. That'll be you. Anyway, and then after you're done wishing, they're still hurting. Tax collector. And you'll feel like, oh, Lord, please have mercy. I know I don't deserve it, but please have mercy. You'll also be like the one telling the gospel story, and that's Jesus. The one saying, consider them. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? And trying to help you to broaden your perspective. I mean, my goodness, the miracles are great, but all that time Jesus spent just trying to broaden perspectives, trying to make people move beyond their box. The first reading was there too, and they told me we could skip that one if we wanted. I mean, we could just do one or the other. I said, I'll go ahead and keep the first reading. That reading kind of goes back and forth a bit. But the way that I read that reading is I thought about so many people that in hospitals, their patients, and care facilities, their residents. Somebody you loved that was. Can not be sick if. Being sick if. By the way, I live life. Do I have smite here on my head? Why am I suffering? It's human. And when you put yourself in a situation through CPE where you're looking in somebody's eyes and you see them flailing trying to make sense of the meaningless at times, or when you're watching the glass fall and know that it's going to shatter on the floor, and then you're with them when it does, you're like that first reading. Give me any way to solve this, but I can't. So God, why? Few quick stories from my CPE experience, way back in the dim, misty recesses of the past somewhere down south. We have to write these verbatims. The verbatims are essentially accounts of your visit to somebody and what you did. And it's to help you reflect on it and learn stuff. And the initials of the patient for my first verbatim, get this, the initials of the patient were G.O. All right, so my first verbatim was go. And I was visiting this guy who was dying, and he knew it. And he didn't like it. He was not positive about it. And the thing is, he wasn't upset so much about what his death was going to do to him. What he didn't like is what it was going to do to his family. His wife had MS, and his son had been in some accident or something. It was like quadriplegic. He knew for a fact that him dying was going to make them even worse off. He didn't like it. I was an extended unit intern. I told him some great verses from Colossians about how to make it God's problem. I was very satisfied with my knowledge of Scripture. My peers in the CPE group praised me. Oh, wow, you listened to this guy. You got him to talk to all this stuff. What a nice blessing and wish you gave him. My educator just was sitting there, not saying a word, just watching. About halfway into the conversation, this guy, Moravian, his name's Logan, he interrupted the praise fest and basically just said, you know what, I think that I would summarize your work with the patient as, what can I say to get you to shut up about your pain? I told him he was wrong. He didn't understand the value of intercessory prayer. And he's like, oh, okay. Amazingly, let me do residency after that. When I did my residency, I did a year in my church and I did a year in the hospital. And with my work in the church, one day there's this woman came into my office And in the church, it was a large church. I had to figure out. I got to stick near this.
Right now.
Thank you. I'll wander. Anyway, she said, basically, she just told me she was cursed. Well, thankfully, I've had some CPE at that point. Because what I wanted to say to her was, no. You're in a building that the whole purpose of which is to make sure you know God loves you. You're not cursed. That's what I wanted to say. Not good theology to think you're cursed. Nope, you're not cursed. That's what I wanted to say. But instead, I had some CPE. And I realized that was my stuff. And so what I did instead was I said, tell me what you mean. And then she told me what she meant. Her mother had died of breast cancer. Her sister had died of breast cancer. Her best friend had stage 4 breast cancer. And she just found a lump in her breast. So you see, she's cursed. I just, tried to talk to her about that. I don't remember much else than that, but I remember that conversation. I remember I had that conversation and several others like it, and I went into CPE for my class. And we were having an IPR, interpersonal relations, where we just talk about whatever. And the educator said, everybody check in. And so I checked in. I just said that story and a few other things that had gone through my office that week. When I was done reporting all that, there's this grizzled Vietnam vet in the room. His name was Rufus. Man had literally crawled through the jungle. He was sitting in there in that room after I did my report. I went through my office that week, crying. And I just saw that and I'm like, why are you crying? And he said, oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. There's just so much sadness in the room. And then I saw Marin, the Salvation Army chaplain, crying. And she's like, yes, it's so sad. And then Adelaide, who described herself as the frozen chosen Episcopal, was crying. And I almost wanted to curse at him. I'm just like, what? I'm just talking about what happened in my week. Why are you? And they were just like, the sadness is so heavy in the room. Can't you feel it? I couldn't. That's what my upbringing did to me. And if I hadn't had them to tell me that, I'd be deader than I am now. But they did tell me that. And unlike when my educator tried to tell me something about it, I listened. And so then I began to be able to really work with that group and the educator. I was on call one Christmas Eve. I volunteered for it. I got crazy. I was saying, give me as many on calls as you can. I do 2 a week. I got the bug. I volunteered for it, and I was on call on Christmas Eve. And I got called to the emergency department pretty early in the night. Basically, a couple had come in, probably in their 40s. And the husband had had some sort of heart ailment. And so my job was to sit with Carol in the waiting room. And it was evident from my conversations with the medical staff that we were in for a long night. But she was by herself on Christmas Eve. They had moved to the area about 3 months before. They didn't have friends. And so I spent as much of that night as I could with Carol. And I remember I spent a lot of time with her. I was there when the doctor came out and said they're trying to save their husband's life, but the arteries are like tissue paper. I remember him saying like tissue paper. And I got more scared and she got more scared. Probably about 4 or 5 in the morning, they came out and told us he had passed. She cried, I hugged her, she hugged me. Don't always do that, depends on them. And I sat with her on the morning bench for the next 2 hours. When the sun came up, she was ready to go. She hugged me and she left and she said, "Jeff, when I met you, I was happily married. I'm leaving you, I'm a widow." I don't know where you're going to find these moments if you don't get yourself ready to be present for them. CPE will give you these moments, these holy moments. All right. CPE is it's probably like ministry. I mean, you get more than you put into it, but what you get is directly proportionate to what you put into it. For me, you heard me say I would have been deader if not for that. For me, the image I use of what CPE did for me is I didn't know it when I started CPE. I took it as a continuing education. I just thought, well, I'll do that. I go to the hospital anyway. I was Pinocchio, and CPE turned me into a real boy. Gave me my heart. Taught me what to do with my sadness. Taught me that actually it's a way to love. And CPE can do that for you. Now, some people, I don't know what all people have said to you about CPE, but CPE is firmly a growth mindset activity. You will add unto yourself by doing CPE. It is not subtraction, it is addition. CPE will add to your deep souledness, is what I would call it. There's so much to you that you can't always get to, and CPE will help connect you to it. There are wonderful people in this room who work with wonderful programs, and you have one here at MTSO as well. I hope you'll come talk to us if you haven't already. If you have, come talk to us again. Talk to you about patient that was go. Talked to you about the cursed woman. Told you about Rufus and the Christmas Carol. I wonder who your names will be.